All right, once again, welcome to class, everybody. It's good to have you all in class. Welcome to the third episode of um, Fundamental MySQL for Data Analysis. We've actually talked about a lot. We've discussed what databases are. We've talked about why databases, in fact, to some extent, we even talked about what data is. We also talked about relational databases and um, non-relational databases, giving the difference between all of those. And then we started talking about why MySQL is an important skill for every data analyst. If you're here in this group, we assume that the knowledge that you have here is either going to aid your journey towards being a data analyst, or is going to at least advance your career in one way or the other. There are a lot of careers that are available along this line of curriculum that we are studying currently, other than data analysis. If you're a data scientist too, you would also have to study the same thing that we're studying. If you're a database administrator, you would also have to study the same thing that we are studying, and other data careers too. So whatever data career you are in, business intelligence analyst, business analyst, so long as you are dealing with data, you need to have one fundamental skill: the skill of manipulating and navigating your way through databases. And that's what MySQL is, a programming language that has to do with databases entirely. So we've been having a good time in class. We've talked about use code, the use keyword used to select databases before we can pull out data from any of the databases we select. We've talked about the select keyword. You select either the entire table or a specific portion of fields or column, like you call it in a table. We talk about from, which identifies the table name. We also went ahead to talk about where. We talked about conditions. We get conditions with which you can filter rows in your table. And other than that, other than the where statement, we've also talked about, sorry, other than the where condition, we started talking about operators in our previous class. And in operators, we started talking about comparison operators in our previous class. Is my voice checking for everybody? Can you help confirm, please? Hi, you talk to me.
Your voice is breaking.
The same as your voice. Interesting.
Sir?
Deborah, talk to me. Can you hear me clearly? Okay.
We cannot hear you clearly.
Just hold on, guys. Give me a minute. Hello, is it better? Please help me. Is it better?
No, your voice is still breaking, sir.
Interesting. Please hold on. Hello, everyone.
Yes, yes.
Is there
You're
progress?
back up clearly now.
I hear you clearly now.
Okay. Yeah, you guys know I'm still in Nigeria, right?
We don't know that though.
Okay. So when you just notice that I hold one class like this for 2 hours and there's no network issue, just know that I've left Nigeria. Okay. I apologize about that. It was the network. So earlier I was trying to recap everything we've been doing so far in class. So I was talking about us learning. Okay, the record is still on. Thank you. So I was talking about us learning the use keyword to select databases that we want to retrieve data from. And then we use the select keyword to take up tables, to select entire tables or fields, maybe like fields or columns in a table, right? Other than that keyword, we also talked about the from, which is just select the table that we are interested in from, then we talk about the table. And then we went further to talk about where keyword. The where keyword is used to specify a condition that we can use to what's the word? To filter rows. Okay, so we can write conditions by which we can filter rows. We diagnosed the syntax of where conditions in our previous class, and we also went ahead to talk about how we can write effective conditions using comparison operators. Comparison operators like greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, not equal to. We talked about those. And I can remember us talking about between, right, in our previous class. So far, so good. We've been able to talk about that other than talking about data and databases as a whole. Okay. So I think we've made we kind of made good progress with setting a foundation and a pace by which we can run on this class. So before we start class for today, I just want to ask, um, please, maybe we just take, yeah, is there anyone here who tried to practice something and didn't get it correctly, or maybe what went through the video but didn't understand something? Do we have any backlogs of questions from the previous class? I'm going to take a few before we go ahead to continue class today, but if there's none, then we're just going to go straight to class. So if you have a question from the previous class, backlog, something you didn't understand that we said in class that you tried to maybe study and you didn't understand, kindly raise your hand, please, so that we can just take your questions before we start class for today. And number one goes to my almighty class rep. Class rep, talk to me.
Okay.
We're supposed to start from like today.
Yes. I want to ask the
Okay.
when can we use like in Power BI? Can we use this descending order or ascending order like this using population, streamlining population to maybe 50 million and above or something like that? Can we Are we going to get to a stage where we can use in descending order or ascending order?
Okay, so if I understand your question clearly, class rep, you're asking if we can sort our data in an ascending or descending order in MySQL, right?
Yes, yes.
Yes, we definitely can. Now we're getting there soon.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Do we have any other questions? Okay, so I'm going to assume that we are good from our previous classes. Either it's that everybody understands what we were teaching in the previous classes, or it's that nobody practiced anything well enough to have a question, or it's that I'm a very terrible teacher and that's why nobody has a question. So I'm not going to take the last option, sha. All right, guys. So let's see what we have for today. In the previous class, which operators did we talk about? I know we're supposed to start from like today. Did we talk about between? Hello.
Hello?
Yes. Did you talk about between in our previous class?
No, you said you're going to start with like.
Okay. All right. So let's get into class for today. Let me share my screen with us. Like.
Hello, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
You actually mentioned between where you said select all country from
Between 100 million and
between 100
150
million
million.
and 450. Yes, you mentioned
Okay.
between.
So I was going to open my workbench, and my workbench will catch those people that said no. Okay, Daniel Esther said yes, he did. First fish, you're the one that said no.
Oh, I
Okay.
didn't. I didn't say anything. No.
Okay, I heard somebody say no that we didn't talk about between though. Okay, but that's fine. Let's just take it up. I'm going to kind of restrict us from um I'm going to mute everybody now so that we can just have a little bit of decorum in class. Then when it gets to the point where we get to ask questions, we can come back and take questions again, right? Thank you for your usual cooperation. All right, let me share my screen with us. Using the comment section, can you all see my screen, please? All right. All right. Great. Oh, yes, so far. Okay, so let's get back to MySQL. I can't even remember which of these instances we used in our previous class. Let me see if it's this. Nope, it's not. Check this. Nice. Okay, so far use. I got some questions this evening coming from some people who try to run SQL codes like maybe like this particular code, select name, district, and population from city, and they were getting an error. Let me show you the same error that they were getting. So I'm just opening this script for the first time. So I'm going to go ahead to run this code first. Now, if you notice, none of the databases are selected yet. So if I run this code, I'm going to get error. Okay. Now this error simply says this error code is 1046, simply saying that no database selected. No database selected. Select the default DB to be used by double clicking its name in the blah 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 and in the schema sections. Okay, so this is what this is pretty much saying, that you're here, you're trying to run a code, but MySQL is not sure which of the databases it should look for this for, because you should look for this table in, because none of the database have been selected. So every time you open my workbench, the first thing you get to do is to go back to run your use world code. Okay, now, once you run a use world code, it could be use world, it could be use circular, it could be use sys, and all of that, whichever one it is, you just have to go ahead and run this your use code. Now, once the database is selected, that's when you can now eventually start running every other code that you have on your script, and then it will now eventually make sense. So this is like your number one ground code that you have to run before you start trying to retrieve data in MySQL. A lot of what we've been learning has been around data retrieval. We'll soon get to data manipulation, joins, and all of that. I hope that class is able to move fast enough so that we can cover as much as possible. Okay, so so we have this still on data manipulation. We've seen still on data retrieval. We've seen our use keyword, select from, blah blah blah, and all of that. And then under where we started seeing operators like less than, greater than, not equal to, we have equal to, and not equal to again. Okay, a lot of that. Now we have this between keyword. This between keyword, we said in between, what happens is that we are able to select a range. Okay, we're able to use between to select a range of characters between one value, which is the lower percentile or lower tile, and the other value, which is the higher tile. In this case, 100 million is the lower tile, and 150 million is the higher tile. Okay, so we're picking values between this value and 150 million. Okay, so that's what we use between for. Mind you, always when you're using these operators, let's always remember the kind of columns that we use operators on. If you remember when we were talking about comparison operators, we said greater than operators, less than operators, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. Those four operators, we mentioned specifically that they work basically mainly on numerical columns, like columns that contains numbers, most especially like this population. So we can say where population is greater than a certain amount and less than a certain amount. But when it comes to equal to and not equal to, equal to and not equal to as operators work both on numeric columns and text-based columns. Okay, they work both on numeric columns and text-based columns. So between also is another operator, and between works basically with numeric columns. Okay, so it doesn't work with text-based column, it works with numeric columns. Okay, so we have that there. Secondly, I would like to also note the fact that every time we are trying to specify a value in MySQL and that value is in text, we put those value in quotes, okay, like the way we have for this Africa here. But then if when we specify numbers as values in our conditions, we don't have to put numbers in quotes. We don't put them in quotes at all. All right. So in our last class, after talking about between, we also went ahead to mention like, and then we said we are not going to start with like. We're going to start it in this class. So that's what I'm going to do. Start with like in our class today. Okay. First fish, do you have anything for me?
While you are showing your screen, I discovered that there was a place there that there is a exclamation mark before Africa equals to Africa, where we have continents.
This?
Yes.
Okay.
Why the exclamation mark? What is it for?
Can somebody help first fish quickly?
It means
Anybody?
not equal to. Not
Thank
equals
you
to.
very much. Thank
Yeah.
you very much. We said in MySQL, the symbol for equal to is a normal equal to here. And then when you have exclamation mark before equal to, it simply means not equal to. And we also mentioned that there are two symbols that stand for not equal to in MySQL. The exclamation mark before the equal to, and then greater than or less than or greater than. These two symbols mean the same thing. They simply mean not equal to in MySQL. All right. Thank you very much for that. Wait, who made that response, please? Thank you, class rep.
Goma.
Okay, Ugoma. Okay, nice. Well done, well done. Well done, Charlie. Okay, let's get back to class now. All right. So today we are going to start with like as an operator in MySQL. So we've seen different types of operators. We've seen where we can use greater than to select from to select everything that is higher than a certain value. We've seen how we can use less than to select everything that is less than a certain value. We've seen where we can use greater than or equal to select a certain value and above, and less than or equal to select a certain value and below. We've also seen how we can use between to select a range of values, or to use equal to select an exact value, or not equal to select everything else but that exact value. Okay, so these are all different ways that we could pull out data within our data set. But what if, for instance, we now have to start looking for things like pattern, because what we are dealing with here is logic. The logic that we are dealing with, think about this as like a doctor. Okay, so you are about to do surgery, and the surgery that you want to do, you want to remove one particular organ that is malfunctioning, or one particular thing from the body that is malfunctioning. And this in this surgery, you have to be very, very precise as a medical doctor. If you remove anything more than that, what will happen? What will happen? You either affect either you affect the client's life or something. If you remove anything less, the problem is not solved. So you have to remove exactly what you're looking for. So in the same way, when we are dealing with data, what we are doing with all of this condition is that we are trying to perform a surgery that gives us the exact data that we need for our analysis. Okay, so if for instance now we need to make an analysis and we need to check all our, for instance, let's say we want to see, let me just assume that we are about to analyze the how the spending habit, or how this whole Gen Z thing affects the spending habit of people who fall within that age category. So we are trying to analyze everybody's age below 30 years. Okay, like every customer in our database whose age is below 30 years. If we try to perform that analysis, if you retrieve data from your database, knowing fully well that you have customers who are 60 years old, 80 years old, and there are hundreds of thousands of customers on that database. If your analysis is meant to analyze a certain age group of people who are below 30 years, and you now go ahead and bring out your data, and in your data you write your condition in such a way where it brings out customers who are older than 30 years, tell me that you can trust your analysis. Your analysis becomes null and void, because why? You are sampling people who are not relevant to the analysis, who are not your sample population. Okay, so it means that if you need to perform that kind of analysis, and the criteria for anybody to qualify for that analysis is that they have to be less than 30 years, it means that you'll be writing your condition in such a way where where you are writing where you are saying maybe age is less than 30. Okay, so this is how you perform like precise surgery. But there are times where the logic is not as straightforward. There are times that the logic is not as straightforward as greater than or less than. Other times it's not as straightforward as just being equal to a certain age at all, at all. So in those cases, what do we do? We have to start looking for a pattern that is common among all our sample population. Are you with me, guys? Are you with me? Or I'm just speaking plenty English here? Great. Go my first fish. Nice. Thank you very much. Okay. So what we are saying is this, that if you're trying to look for, pick out a more complex pattern out of your data that is not just like greater than, less than. What if you're trying to pick out a pattern that, let's say for instance, we want to deal with all our customers whose name begins with A, for instance. Okay. So if you want to deal with all our customers whose name begins with A, then you now see that that's a more complex pattern, because you cannot say where customer's name is greater than A or less than A or is equal to A. Because when you see customer name equal to A, it means that the name of the customer is A. It's not Adam, it's not Abraham, it's not Aliu, it's not anything, it's A. By the way, Wahid is not in class today. Remind me please to check up on him. Class rep. Okay, so let's make progress. So what I'm saying is this, that when you're talking about when you're trying to perform these kind of things, like where customer names begins with A, now that's a more difficult or a more complex pattern that you cannot just use comparison operators for. Now, in those kind of pattern search, this is where the like comes in, the like keyword. Okay, so we're saying where the customer name looks like this. This is how the pattern works. Okay, it works exactly the same way that your almost the same way that your phone contact works. Are we together? Like in your phone contacts now, if for instance now you want to call Mr. Matthew now, once you open your contacts, you're going to see everybody's name sorted from A to Z. Like from it, usually that's how phone contacts are sorted. But the moment you click on that search on your phone contact and you click on M, what happens to your phone contact is that there's an immediate filter to get it to start from, to get every name that starts from M. So you now start finding people whose names are M, then whose names are MA, whose names start with MA, then whose name starts with MB, MC, ME, and then it's going to arrange until when it now gets to MR. That's where you now start seeing Mr. Then whatever name comes after that. Okay. So if for instance now you have Mr. Adams and Mr. Matthew, obviously, once you get to MR, Mr. Adam is going to be at the top, then Mr. Matthew is going to come second. So that's exactly the same algorithm that our phone contacts that we use to search things in our phone contact or search for files in our system. Is um this same like keyword similar to that, okay? Because whether you realize it or not, every time you search through your contact on your phone, what you are searching through is a database, okay? You're searching through all those phones, all those phone numbers and names. Those are all data that are being stored in your phone. So it's the same thing that we are doing with MySQL here. So every day we interact with databases, we don't just know that we are interacting with database. Sometimes we even go into our chat and then we are trying to look for maybe a certain message that contains a certain word. For instance, if somebody sends their account number in a group of maybe in a group, and then that account number is for instance access bank account number. If that's the only thing you remember in that account number, what are you going to do when you enter a group and then you've seen that there are over 1,000 messages that have covered the account number? You just have to search and search for the word access. And as you are scrolling up, you're finding everything that has access all throughout those messages. The exact thing you're doing is that you are going through a database, and this is the exact thing that you're looking for every word that looks every message that contains any word that looks like access. Okay, so having explained that, I believe that we clearly understand that. So let me just jump into this. So before I start for today, since we've selected our world database, let me still go back to, let's use our country table before we make that like. So I'm going to say select everything from country. Okay, so let's just see that data again before we go ahead to use like keyword. All right, so this is our country table, and in the columns here we have code, which is the country code. Okay, so for instance, for Afghanistan we have AFG, for Angola we have AGO, for what other country again? Some of these countries are not very popular. I don't want to call something and bite my tongue. All right, so other than the country codes, we have the names of the countries, the continents the countries belong in, the regions of the countries, the surface area of the country, the year of independence of the country, population and life expectancy of the country, their gross national product, and their old gross national product, which is GNP. Okay, so the local name of the country, and then the form of government that the country practices, and then the name of the head of state. And then we also have here the capital city of the country, and then we also have the code of the capital city of the countries. So this is the data we are dealing with. So I'm just going to work with this and then pick up a few things. So we are talking about using like keywords here. So what I'm going to do is, for instance, I'm looking for all the countries whose names start with A. Okay, so if I'm looking for all the countries whose names start with A, this is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to say select. So this select, I can have everything here. So select everything from country table. What's the next thing? We have where. Okay, so where name. Now we now have our like keyword. Okay, where name like, we can now specify the pattern we are looking for. So when we say where name like A, now we now have a pattern. Okay, so what we are going to do is we're going to put a percentage symbol after this A and close that out and do this. Okay, I'm going to explain why the percentage symbol in a second. Now see what I'm going to do. First off, before we do this, let's go through our database. Aruba, Angola, let me see, sort this by name. Afghanistan, Albania, Algeria, blah, 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 and all of that. You can see that it gets better and then gets to Barbados, Bangladesh, and the rest of them. So you see that our database already has a lot of names from B, C, and so on and so forth. Okay, so let's just run this code now and see if we are going to have every other country again. So if we do this now, having run this code, if you go through, you can see that our database ends with only countries that start with A. Are we together? Yeah, give me a like button. Are we together so far? All right, awesome. So this is the pattern that we've selected now. So we can further streamline this pattern. If, for instance, we are looking for maybe country names that start with maybe AN only and all of that, we can further streamline that and put AN, and then with that percentage symbol, if we run that again, the only countries we're going to have are countries that start, sorry, this is AN. So if we streamline that further, you can see that the only countries we have are countries that start with AN. So AN here stands for Angola. Countries that start with AN in our database are Angola, Anguilla. Really, there's a country called Anguilla in North America. Nice. Okay. We have Andorra, Antarctica, Antigua, and Barbuda, something like that. Okay. So you can see what our like keyword does. So now with this like keyword now, it now gives us a new possibility of picking out the exact database that we want without affecting any other one. Okay. So let's go again and make another example. Say for instance, we are looking for okay. So let's say we are looking for countries whose region have central. Okay. So for instance, we have one region here saying Central Africa. Assuming there are other regions who contain the word central, let's see if we are going to find that. So for us to do that, we're going to do something like this: select everything from country, right? Where now we are using region column, okay? Where region looks like central, okay? Put a percentage symbol there at the end. I know you're beginning to get curious. Why the percentage symbol now? All right. So if we go down to this, notice all the countries that starts with central, whose region starts with central. So since we are using region as a column, where we're going to check if our code works perfectly or not is going to be region column. So you can see that we have Central Africa, Central America, Central Africa, Central America, and Central Africa. So these are all the countries whose region contain the word central. All right. So question now, why are we using percentage symbol? That would be the question in this case now. Why are we using percentage symbol? So the reason why we're using percentage symbol is that in MySQL, there's something called a wildcard. Okay. So if you play what like your normal what card and all of that, there's this card that also does the same thing. It's also called a wild card. It's called I need. I don't know that card 20. The name is not I need, but we all popularly know it as I need. There's a point where it gets to that when you have that card, you can always ask for anything and just drop it. So it's a wild card. It doesn't represent anything in itself, but it represents that you can ask for anything. Do you get? So when you're playing what and then you drop I need, you can say I need star, I need ball, I need triangle, I need, yeah, I've forgotten every other square that we have there. Okay. So basically that's what we're talking about. The same thing applies here too. So every time we're talking about a wildcard here, this percentage symbol does not represent anything in itself. It's just saying that we are not looking for the exact word central. We are looking for every word that starts with central, and we are open to any other thing that follows. Okay. So what this percentage symbol stands for is that any other character that follows that an is welcome, and that's the reason why every time we run this code for this an, you notice that we have an. The characters that follow here for Angola is GOLA. Okay, for Andorra is DORRA. Now we didn't specifically specify that we wanted Angola or Andorra. We just specified that we wanted the country name to have AN. Then we now put that percentage symbol to say that anything that follows that AN, we are cool with it. Okay, so this is like a wildcard saying that anything can follow these characters and we are fine with it. I hope that explanation makes sense. Do we have a question with that? First fish, talk to me.
Yeah, I want to ask whether it is case sensitive, because I discovered that The first letter is always capitalized, and I discovered that
First
others
fish.
are not. So I wanted to is this case sensitive?
Sorry.
All right. I wanted to ask if.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Hello, can you hear
Okay.
me,
Yes,
sir?
you wanted to.
Yes, I wanted to
I'm
ask
listening.
if it is case sensitive because I discovered that the first letter is capitalized.
Sir.
Can you hear me,
Okay.
sir?
First fish, your network is breaking. I'm not sure it's my network. I think it's yours this time around. If it's my network, please somebody else confirm if it's my own network, please. If you can hear me clearly, then it's not my network.
Yeah, we
Can you all hear me, please?
yes, we can
It's
hear
clear,
him.
sir.
We can hear you.
Yes, we can.
Okay. So, first fish, drop me a message in the comment section. Please drop me a message in the comment section. Mrs. Adebukola said I should please come again. Okay, so if you say I should please come again, you mean with the explanation of what career? Mr. Adebukola, please talk to me. What cash or the percentage symbol?
Wildcard, sir.
Okay, so let me just explain this as simple as in the simplest way I can. Okay, so Mrs. Adebukola, if you're looking for the name Matthew on your phone, on your contact list, you most likely don't have to spell the whole Matthew before you get Matthew, do you? If you're searching for Matthew on your contact list,
I got that.
I'm very sure the moment you specify MAT, like when you're searching for Matthew, if you specify MAT, then Matthew should be in view somewhere around. There can be a Matthias, there can be a Martina, there can be a
Your
Martha,
voice is breaking again.
but
I don't know
Matthew
if
should
it's from me.
also be. Okay, it's not case sensitive. Nothing in my SQL is case sensitive. Nothing in my SQL is case sensitive. So you can specify with capital letters, small letters. It's not case sensitive. All right. Um, so back to Mrs. Bukola. Can you hear me, ma?
Your voice is breaking. I don't know if I'm the only one.
Your voice is clear.
Everything is breaking. Is it from my side?
I think it's on my end.
Yeah, it has to be from our hand because the voice is very clear over here.
All right. So please let's just all try to get our networks up and running. Okay. Like maybe just shift a bit, climb a tree. I'm just kidding. All right. So what I'm saying with the wildcard is that a lot of times when you need to search out things for your phone, you don't necessarily need to specify everything before you get the particular thing you're searching out for. Most times, you just need to specify a few characters in the thing that you're searching out for. For instance, if you're searching for a file, you don't need to specify all the names of the file before you find that exact file. Most likely, if you specify half the name, you most likely find the file in view, right? So the point is, since you didn't specify the whole character, why did you get a list of things that contain those characters? It's simply because there's a wildcard acting on every other character that you're seeing. For instance, using Matthew now as an example, I've been using Matthew again and again as an example. The moment you specify MAT in your contact list and it brings up Matthew, it's not because you specify the remaining THEW, because Matthew is MATTHEW, right? It's not because you specify the remaining characters. Is that since Matthew contains those three characters, we might as well just guess that you are looking for the complete characters. So those remaining characters that popped up, even when you did not type them out, they popped up as a wild guess. So if you're thinking of wild character, if you're thinking of wild cards, be thinking of things like wild guesses. Okay, so those popped up as a wild guess because it looks, it kind it, like it it has a kind of relationship with what you have already specified. Okay, if you've already specified the MAT and this name that's coming up Matthew here has MATTHW, because they both contain MAT, then there's a high probability that this is the name you're looking for. So it's a wild guess we are making with the rest of the character that this is the name you're looking for. So every other character that is unspecified that you didn't specifically type, for all of those ones are represented, they are brought forth to you as a wild guess. So we call them, they are represented in the case of MySQL now, they are represented by this percentage symbol, which we are calling a wild card in this case. Okay, so please somebody confirm that I did not mess things up with this explanation. Okay, I didn't mess up. Thank you very much. Nobody confirmed, Sha. Wahid, you're in class. I was looking for you. Welcome to class. All right, so let's get back to wild. All right, thanks, Rachel. Let's get back to wildcards. Okay, so you can specify a pattern to using this percentage as a wildcard to say that you need something to contain a certain pattern. All right, so let me show you some other possibilities that are available in wildcard. In the case of this example that we just made here, let me copy this again and paste the same thing here. So in the case of this example that we made, because we had already specified an, okay, because we have already specified an, and then we are now putting the wildcard after, what we are simply saying is that the pattern we are looking for in name has to start with an. Then any other letter that is after is okay. Okay, so that's what we have specified here. So that opens the possibility for us to also say that if we wanted a country to all the countries that ended with an, we can put the wildcard before and then specify the an after. Okay, so in this case, we are saying that this name we are looking for, this name in this case here, this name that we are looking for can start with anything, no, but we specifically want it to end with an. Okay, so if we run this pattern now, let's see what we find. Afghanistan ends with an, whatever ends with an, Iran ends with an, Jordan ends with Japan. Can you see all of them? Sudan, right? Uzbekistan, all of these, Taiwan, they all end with an. Why? Because we have changed the algorithm now a bit. So we are saying now you can start with anything in name column, like searching through the values under name column in my database, right? Which is country now. You can search, you can search for all the names or all the values that start with anything, provided they end with an, just bring them up. This is what we've specifically said here. So who can tell me the third possibility that exists here? If we are looking for a name that starts like all the countries whose name starts with an, and we can also check for countries whose name ends with an, then what's the third possibilities that we have here? Somebody help me, somebody that is thinking logic. ASAP.
Contains an.
You said?
Having an in between.
Countries that contains
Okay,
an.
okay. So contains an. All right. So that would be the law, the third logic that we have. Nice, nice. You guys are thinking straight. Okay, so it means that if, for instance, we are looking for any country that has an kind of in the middle, then we can have something like this. Okay, so we have an, and like pretty much what we are saying is that it can start with any character. It can also end with any character because we have the wildcard before and after. Okay, but then it has to contain an, whether in the middle or in the beginning or in the end, or so long as there's an an. So if we run this pattern, can you see what we have here? We have Afghanistan starts with af, no problem, has AN at the middle. Now this is our AN, and then there's also AN at the end. Angola starts only with AN. If you go further, you're going to find Ghana contains AN in the middle. France contains AN in the middle. Do you understand? So this is the third possibility that we have in using wildcard to find complex patterns in our data set. Questions? No, we are good. No questions. Am I speaking for everybody? Hi, Ugoma. Talk to me. Ugoma, I can't hear you. Are you using an earpiece, please? I can't hear you. Like your voice is sounding like chipmunk. Okay, okay. Do we still use quotes for numbers in like? Okay, so a lot of times when you're dealing with like, you're not dealing with numbers anymore. In numbers, you don't have to use any of that. You can use either greater than, less than, and all of that, and just find whatever you're looking for. You can use greater than, less than, between, and all that. So when we're using like, we don't have to. It's not with numbers again. A lot of the application of like more than 99% of the application will be on text-based columns. Okay. Do we have any other question? That was a good question, though. All right. So no question. We all understand. Okay. Let me test our knowledge. So let's say, for instance, we are looking for So we are looking for all the countries whose region contains or ends with ERN. All the countries whose region ends with ERN. How do we write that code? Comment section. Let's go. All the countries whose region ends with ERN. How do we write that code? Like, write it as a full code, Ugoma, please. All the countries whose region ends with ERN. Adekule Ahmed. Okay, this is a good one. Pamela. Pamela, you refused to greet me from the beginning of class. I'm not talking to you. But this is a good one. Mrs. Bukola, select everything from, there's no table name here. Region is the name of a column. So it should be select everything from country where region, like percentage ERN. And don't forget to put the codes too. Steven, this is a good one. All right. Mr. Luele Samuel, okay, so this your code is missing a lot of things. Select everything country, ERN. Okay, this code is half baked. So it's supposed to be like select everything from country where region, like percentage ERN. Okay, so Rachel. Okay, so Rachel, your code is missing region, where region, like ERN. Okay, let me see this. Samuel, my guy. You're doing well, boss. Miss Akinsan Bolanle. Okay, so this your code is also missing a lot of things. Select everything from, there's no country. So it's supposed to select everything from country. Okay, so let me just pick any of these. So first fish had to wait for me to mention which one was correct before he now wrote his own. So let me just copy his own, seeing that he also copied. Vincent, this is a good one. Okay, so let me just take this because I'm very fond of him. All right, so everyone, once I run this, just make your correction. All right, Ronke, nice one. So, okay, so I noticed that a lot of us are beginning to take the same pattern that I'm using to write my own code, and I think it's actually a good one too, personally. So I noticed a lot of us are writing our keywords in capital letter and the names of our columns and table names in small letters. Mind you, this is not, it's not compulsory you have to do that, but I personally, it's how I like to work. And if you also choose that same way, who am I to say no to you? Okay, so we have this code here to select everything from country where region looks like percentage ERN. So if we run this code, this should give us a very, oops, sorry. What's going on here? I can't find anything. Oh, is this normal?
That code is ending with ERN.
There is no percentage at the end of it.
Sorry, I didn't get that. The code is ending with ERN. That picked
Yes,
the wrong code.
percentage to end it before quotes close.
Okay,
It's
so
correct.
it's correct. This code is actually correct if I'm seeing correctly, because I'm beginning to clean my glasses now. Okay, so this code is actually correct, except if there's no region that ends with ARN. There's no region that ends with ARN.
You didn't close the percentage.
But you said that contains ERN, not ending with ERN.
Oh, okay, did I say contains? Okay, if I said contains, then this would be the right code here.
Ah,
Yeah, if I
Exactly.
said contains, this would be the right code.
Exactly.
Okay, so yep, this makes sense. Now it's the reason why we're not getting any response when we say it ends with ERN is that even though we have countries like Southern, there's always something after Northern, something after. Do you get? And so long as that thing after does not end, so like here we have Europe, 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 Africa, Africa, Africa. So long as it doesn't end with ERN, even though there's ERN at the end of Southern or Northern, it will still not come out because what we are looking at are the last three characters of the values. Okay, so the right way to have written this code would be to have contained so we can get a value. Okay, so this is how we write that code. So seeing that we have a lot of participation on this short quiz, I feel like we understand what we are saying so far. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do next. Let me touch on another wildcard. There's a second wildcard that we have other than the percentage symbol in MySQL, and that wildcard is underscore. Okay, our normal underscore. Now, what underscore would do is this. Let me write a code. Select everything from country where continent like, let's do this with underscore. Okay, so now where country like Asia, this is supposed to just give us only Asia. Obviously we have Asia here. Now what's the difference between percentage symbols and underscore? The simple difference between percentage symbol and underscore is this, that percentage symbol does not have a limit to the number of characters it can represent. Okay, so if for instance we have, let's look at this now. If for instance in this where name is starts with or it ends with an, for instance, if we have the percentage symbol before it, it simply means that even though there are 100 characters before an, so long as there's an at the end, we are fine with it. So percentage symbol does not have any character limit or cap. Okay, but the percentage symbol, the underscore symbol here represents only a single character. So if, for instance, we had changed this to use underscore before an, then the thing that MySQL will be looking for is only a 3-lettered word country. Country, of course, a country that has only 3 letters, because this underscore symbol is only a wildcard for a single character, which is any character from A to Z. Are we together? Does that make sense? Hello, does that make sense, please?
Please,
Does it
can
make
you
sense?
recap?
Okay, let me take that again. Simple example. Say, for instance, we write math and then with a percentage symbol. What are the possible items that we can have here? We'll first have math. Compulsorily, there has to be a math. So we can have a Matthew. We can have a Matthew honor. We can have Martha.
Matthias.
Matthias. We can have, okay, Martha is AMR. So leave Martha out of this. We can have Matthias Beatrice.
Mark.
We can have maths. So long as it's not MAT, it won't count because we already have specified MAT. So now this is what we are saying here. Here, because we have percentage symbol, after math, how many characters do we have here? 4 characters. After math, how many characters do we have here? 8 characters. After math, how many characters? 4. How many characters here? Pretty much we have like Beatrice. Okay, this is supposed to be Beatrice, but that's like
9.
10 characters. 10 characters after MAT.
10.
Yeah, here we have a single character. So do you not see that the characters that this percentage symbol represents is not, there's no limit to the number of characters. Provided it starts with MAT, percentage symbol represent 4 characters, represent 8, represent 10 characters, represent 4 characters, represent a single character. But if we had written this same thing this way, maths, and then we had underscore here, what are the only possibilities we can have? We can have maths with MATT. We can have matter, if there's any such thing as matter. We can have math. Do you get? Because this percentage symbol here can only represent one character at a time. Are we together? Does that make sense now? Percentage symbol can only represent one character as a wildcard at a point in time, while sorry, that's not percentage. Now the underscore symbol can only represent one character. Hello, guys.
I'm with you.
Okay, so I believe with this example now, this makes sense. So in the case where I'm trying to look for a certain pattern, but I want to limit the pattern to a number of characters, instead of using my own percentage symbol, which is going to give me a very wide array of things that contains that pattern and all of that, I can use my underscore symbol to limit the character I'm looking for. For instance, I'm very sure that what I'm looking for has is a 5-letter word. Okay, so what am I going to do? Specify the letters that I can remember. I know that it starts with math. Okay, so but I don't want it to bring any other thing apart from 5-letter words that starts with math. What am I going to do? If I specify the math, I can put 1, 2, 2 characters here. Okay, so this 1, 2 percentage symbol means that it starts with these 3 percentage symbols, but there are 2 other percentage symbols, and I'm not sure what it is. Now, where this kind of this thing comes in is that let me use this. I think I have a very good example that can cut it. Say, for instance, we are looking for Yoruba names that look like this. We have a lot of Yoruba people here, so don't mind when I'm using Yoruba. We have people whose names are like this. Oluwole. We have Ola. Is there Olawole? Hello? Is there a name called, is there Olawole in
Yes,
Yoruba?
yes,
Okay,
yes.
there is, right? Okay, so here we are looking for somebody who
Adewale.
has Wole. Adewale is also there. So, but let's look at this very close one now. We're looking for somebody whose name is Olawole or Oluwole, but we are not certain what it is. We are either, but it can either be a U or an A, okay? But we are not sure which one it is exactly, but we know that it has OL and then it has Wole at the end. So what can we do to get out those kind of names? Use the ones you remember, OL underscore, because it's one character, and then you can now have Wole. Now that one character can either be the O or be the A, or whichever character comes in this case. Do you understand? Because we are looking for a like for a single character. If for instance we did this, now pretty much this makes sense to us now, because what we have done pretty much is to substitute this letter we are unsure of with an underscore. It happens with the same thing like Michael too. Some people spell Michael like this. Some people spell Michael like this. Michael. So some people say that AAL, other people say it as EAL, right? Whichever one it is, we are not sure, but we shall know that it's a Michael we're looking for in our database. So what are we going to do? Mike, put two underscore to represent those two letters, whether it's EA or AEL, and then put the L at the end. Then this will now give us the exact thing we are looking for. Do you understand? So this is just where we can use some of the instances where we can use the underscore symbols, and then it will come out just fine. Okay. So, but what I'm pretty much saying here is that this underscore symbol can only represent a single character at any point in time, while percentage symbol can represent more than a single character. I can delete this now, yeah? All right, I'm just going to leave it for myself. I'm not getting a lot of motivation in this class. Yes, Steven, you can use as much underscores as you can. Okay, so we are making progress, right? All right, thanks, guys, thanks. Ayana. Please kindly mute your audios. Don't worry, I'm just going to help everybody. Somebody wants to say something? Thanks, Pastor. Thank you, sir. Ms. Bolanle, what's up? Talk to me.
Okay. I want to say this. In a situation whereby you are not sure of the remaining names behind that name, then you
Yes.
can use the percentage
Yes, you can use the percentage symbols.
symbols. Okay.
Exactly. Exactly. You can use the percentage symbol when you're not sure of the remaining things. Maybe you're only sure of the first name, but you're not sure of every other names after and all of that. You know that there are a lot of names. So you can always use the percentage symbol to represent every other thing after. But when you're looking for single characters, like single letter, one letter like this, you'd rather use the underscore symbol instead of using the percentage symbol. So that's pretty much what I've been trying to explain since. Thanks. All right, let's make progress from there. So, somebody asked a question, can we use as much underscores as possible? Yes, we can use as much underscore as possible, so long as we know the number of characters that we are looking for. That's the first thing. The second thing that we also have is that we can combine both underscores and percentage symbols when we are working with MySQL. How that works is this. We can have something like this. Select everything from the name of the table, country, where, what do we have here? Where name is like. So for instance, we're looking for a name that starts with anything, contains OA, and then ends with any single character after OA. Okay. let's close this, and then let's have this. Now we're combining both of our both wildcards together now in this case. Let me look for a better example. But I'm very sure you know the output of this. Let's say, for instance, let's look for Nigeria. Okay, so it starts with anything, okay, has RI, and then ends with any one single letter. So we are hoping that that one single letter will be A now to bring out Nigeria, okay? So this anything, let me run this code first before we get that. Okay, so you can see that we have Austria. It starts with AUST, which were highly represented by percentage symbol in this case. AUST represented by percentage symbol. Then it now has the RI, which we have specified here, and then it ends with one single character A. You see that? Bulgaria does that same thing too. BULGA, which were represented by percentage symbol. It now has RI, which we specified, and then it ends with one single letter for Bulgaria. And we also have Nigeria too, which has NIGE, represented by percentage symbol. RI, okay, this RI here is already specified, and then we have one single character at the end. So you can also have a combination of both wildcards to achieve whatever you want. So the point here is there's no limit to your creativity. You just have to know exactly how to cut out, how to do this surgery and get out the exact data that you want. Because most times when you are working with organizations frown at data theft. Okay, they frown at data theft. So if, for instance, you are expected to maybe do an analysis and there's a kind of data that you are expected to access and you access more than that data, they are going to frown at you. They won't understand that it was a wrong code that you wrote and then you exported. It won't be like that. It won't be like, oh, it was a mistake. It will be that this is your job. You're supposed to do this perfectly. So if you are making a mistake and your mistake is that you are getting more data, then there's more data than you need for this analysis. Then there's a high probability that you're about to sell this data to a competitor. So organizations frown at it totally. They don't allow it. That's the reason why you need to be able to be very confident using all of these, your operators, all of these wildcards, and every of these. You need to be very confident using it to get exactly what you want out of your data set. So pretty much that's what we have. Okay, so can we leave this issue of like now? You see the reason why I didn't want to treat it in the previous class? It was going to take a lot of time. Progress. Just tell me we can make progress, please. Okay, let's go on. So we'll talk about one or two more other keywords. I haven't talked about this, and then we can close class for today. Today we might close class a bit early, except if we have a lot of questions. All right. So the other keyword that we're going to talk about is the same keyword that Mrs. Class rep asked after. So the keyword is order by. She was asking, how do we get to sort our result in either an ascending or a descending order? Okay, so that's where the order by keyword comes in. So when we are using order by keyword usually comes after where. Okay, so if for instance we say select all of these, okay, and put it here. Sorry, Control Z. Let me paste this here. So if we are done writing this code and then we want to order the same code by population, so we want this to be arranged from the lowest population to the highest population. What are we going to put after our code? Since we've already gotten our data out using this code, then we can always write order by, capital letters now, order by what? Population. Can you see that? So we have a population column here. Watch what is going to happen. So if we order by population, just run that. Did you notice it started from the lowest population to the highest population, to the country with the highest population, which is Nigeria. So it starts with Liberia and ends with Nigeria because we said it should order by population. Now, by default, when you order by, it will usually start with the it will usually order in an ascending order. Okay. If you want the opposite of an ascending order, you have to specify that it should do that same ordering in a descending order. Okay. So let me do that here. So if I wanted it to order by in a descending order, I just have to specify descending here at the end of population. Okay. So this will order by a descending order. Okay. So if we run this, you see that it starts with the most populous country, Nigeria, and ends with the less populous country, which is Liberia in this case. Okay, are we together? So in this order by, we can either have order by ascending or order by descending. Okay, if you don't specify anything, it will always order by ascending. And ascending, the keyword that represents ascending is ASC, and the keyword that represents descending is DESC. Okay, so this is order by ascending. Whether you put ascending or not, by default, MySQL will always order in an ascending order, which means that from the lowest to the highest. And if we're using a text-based column, it's going to order from A to Z by default. Okay, but if we are ordering in a descending order, it's going to order from Z to A or from the highest to the lowest. So this is the keyword that you are looking for, class rep. Do we understand this? Do we understand this, please? First fish only is throwing thumbs up. Who else? Do we understand this? All right, Ugoma giving me morale. All right. All right, thanks, guys. So far so good. We have all of this in MySQL, like all of this code, like these things that we've seen now. You've noticed that we are carefully leaving retrieving data, okay? Because now we have started talking about things like ordering and all of that. This is a bit of retrieving, but it doesn't have. It's just about arrangement now in this case. So it doesn't have to do with you bringing out data. There's one more keyword I would like us to see before we step out of class today, and it's going to be our limit order. Okay, now this limit order, what it does is that it allows you to select the number of rows that you want to see from your data set. Okay, select everything from country. Okay, let me do this. So if we select everything from country, we're going to have all of these together. Okay, so these are a lot of rows. But if, for instance, we want to use our limit order, for instance, let me show you what that looks like. Sorry, I had to respond to your message briefly. Okay, so we're selecting everything from country. We can also do a where condition in this case, do an order condition. Always note that this same order that we have, it limit cannot come before where. So if I'm adding limits now, it's because I'm not using a where. Anywhere, anytime I need to use where keyword, I definitely will not be adding limits. Anytime I need to use order by, I won't be adding limits before order by. So this when we are dealing with MySQL, all of these things that we are saying, pretty much they all have an order in which they must follow, and that's the order that we are following to write all of these are codes. First off, your codes will most likely always start with select from. That's like the first priority. Second priority to your code is what is going to be your where keyword. Third priority to your code is going to be the third priority you're going to have to your code is going to be your order by. And then after your order by, you can now bring in your limit order. So maybe I should just write a full quote here. Okay, so select everything from country. Let's use our where now. Where continent equal Africa. Okay, right. The next thing we can now have is maybe let's order by life expectancy as a column. Okay, so now we can now go ahead to have our limit order. So now that we've selected life expectancy, we can now say limit 10. Okay, so when we are saying limit 10, and what we are saying is that bring me the top 10 rows. Now, if let me remove this limit first. Let me even use limit 2 so that we'll see the result on a very drastic output. Now you can see that this is like the top 2 rows that would have been brought out from this instruction that we just gave. So limit allows you to select the number of rows that you want to pull out. Why is this very, very important? This is very important because most times, like I said, MySQL deals with database. So, and in database, we can have millions and millions of rows. So just imagine that you need to write a code, and then you write a code, and it's bringing out, let's say, for instance, let's say 500,000 rows. Your output is supposed to be like 500,000 rows. You now wait for 500,000 rows to load after like a few minutes to load into your system. And then you now realize that there's a mistake. What would you do again? You correct that mistake and then load again another 500,000 rows again. So, but what limit helps us to do is that if we knew that if we wanted to just cross check if our code was correct or not, instead of loading the whole 500,000 rows, we might as well load the first 10 rows to see if the first 10 are correct, using the assumption that if the first 10 rows are correct, then most likely the other 490,990 would be correct also. Okay, so that's why we use limit most times. We just use it to, instead of pulling out the entire database, we can always use it to just pull out a portion of our database, like the first top few rows, like the first few rows of our data set, just to be very sure that what we are doing is correct. So we can always have limit and specify the numbers that we want to limit our codes to. But that's not the only thing that we can do. There's something else that we can do, that every time we, for instance, maybe we want to, this is like the top 10 rows starting from row number 1. Okay, what if we wanted to start from what if we wanted to bring the top 10 rows, or maybe the top 3 rows from row number 5? Okay, maybe we want to start, like, we are picking from the top of our data frame or our data set. But what if we want to pick from the center of our data set to say maybe from row number 500, bring me the top 5 rows? Okay, so in that case, our limit order is going to change. It's going to look like this. When I'm saying limit order, now I'm sounding like traders now, because traders use limit orders a lot. Okay, so if I'm specifying this 3 and then maybe 5, what I'm saying is that bring me the top 5 rows from row number 3. This is how this instruction works here. So how this works is that it's going to bring from row number 3, we're going to get top 5. Now let me prove to you why this is row number 3. We have Malawi here, right? Let me go back and use this same quote here. You notice that we have, first off, we have 1, 2, Mozambique 3. So after row number 3, you see that it starts counting from Malawi here as 1, 2, 3 from Malawi, Zimbabwe, and all of that. So that's to prove to you that it started counting after row number 3. Did you see that? Malawi, Zimbabwe, Angola, Botswana, and the rest of them. So pretty much what are we saying? We're saying that you can either select the top few rows from row number 1, or select a certain number of rows from a given number of rows. Okay, so this is how we use our limit order in MySQL. One thing that, if you don't take anything from this class before you go back to watch this video, one thing that you should take home is that these instructions have an order in which they must be written, and this is like the order. We are following the order one after the other. Okay, so we cannot start a where before we now have select. We cannot do order by before we have select. We cannot do limit before we have select, and we cannot do select after, like, I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say. Don't misplace the order. If you misplace the order, your code most likely would not work. So always have your select first. Secondly, have your condition, which has to do with your where. Then your order comes in, and then you can now have your limit as at the end of this. Okay, so do we have any questions from this so far? Okay, Ugoma, talk to me.
Sorry, if I didn't get the limit you talked about 3 and 5. I got confused there.
Okay. So but you got the first one where we said limit 10.
Yes, I understand that one.
Okay, so every time it's use that limit 10, we said it's going to pick from row number one, like from the top of your data set, from row 1 down to row 10. That's what it would do. But if you have, for instance, that 3 and 5 here we have, that first 3 represents that we want to start picking from row number 3. We want to start picking 5 rows from row number 3. So it won't start from row number 1 to give you the first 3 rows. It will start from row number 3 to give you the first 5 row after row number 3, which most likely will be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that two number system helps you to pick rows of data from in between your data sets, not from the top anymore. Okay, so that's how we have that. So I hope I answered your question. If I did,
Yes,
you
sir.
can drop your
Thank you,
hand.
sir.
You're welcome. Talk to me, Ona Bajo.
Okay, good
Aderonke.
evening, sir.
Hi, good evening, Aderonke.
Okay, just based on this last example, I just want to confirm what I think it is now. You
Okay.
said the 3 and 5. The 3 stands for the first the third no and the third row, right?
Yes.
And the 5 stands for just 5, like just 5 row after the third row, or the
Exactly.
next
That's
5
what I
rows
said.
after the third one, right?
Exactly, man.
Okay.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome. Um, do we have any other questions from this?
So,
Goma.
sorry, sir. I have one more question. You were talking about them being in order, but after the
Yes.
condition, like where we can still do limits, right? We don't have to do order by. If there's
If
no
you
need
don't
for order
like,
by.
yes, if there's no need for order by, you can just do limit directly. But
Okay,
if you ever
okay,
have to use order by, don't use order by after limit. Use order by before limit.
before
If
limit.
there's no
Okay,
reason for where, okay, you can also use, like, if you don't have to write any condition, you can also use order by after, immediately after select. Do you understand? So every
okay,
other line after select from, they are all optional lines depending on depending on the condition
the
or
condition.
that you want to perform, right? Or the operation you
Okay,
want to perform. So they're all optional. So in the place where you don't have to use one, the other one can come after. But where you have to
come.
use all of
Okay,
them, you must have them in that order.
that order. Thank you.
Yes. Yes, you're welcome. Any other question? If you don't ask, Ugoma will
Someone,
ask for you. Yes, please.
okay,
Rhoda, talk
sorry,
to me.
please. I've been trying to run it, but it's not working. So I don't know what I'm expected to do. After clicking on execute, it's not running.
Are you getting an error feedback?
Yes, saying error 1046.
What does it say? What does it say after the error 1046?
It's saying no database selected.
And you have not run your use
So
code now. That's what we said from the
I've
beginning of
not,
the class. Go and execute your use code. Use the name of the database.
I know what I'm doing, but still.
Execute that use code, then come back to re-execute that line of code.
Okay.
Yeah. Um. Any other questions, please?
So I have a question.
Okay.
Um,
Talk to me,
you
man.
can you can run 3 or more numbers.
I don't understand 3 or more numbers.
Like you said, limit 3, 5. I'm trying to
Yeah.
run more than that number, but it's not running. It can't be executed.
Um. Okay. So first off, if is it giving you like an error?
Yes.
What's the number you're specifying?
I'm trying to run limits 3, 5, and 8.
No, no, no. You only have two numbers where you want to start and the number of rows you want to pick from where you start. You can't put 3, comma 5, comma 8.
Why?
What were you trying to achieve with using 3, 5, 8 in the first place?
Just trying to check it.
Okay, because the logic is that you can either pick from the top rows, or if you want to pick from the center, you can just select a column in the center, like a row where you want to start from in the center. Okay. I don't know what that remaining 8 will represent. There's no logical reason for having that. Okay. If there was something it did, I would know and I'll tell you. So can you just kindly get that 8 out and just practice within the conference we've talked about? All right, but it's good that you were curious though. Like a lot of things, a lot of times you try things out of curiosity, you eventually learn new things like that. I know a lot of people that never want to make a mistake. They don't want to try anything new because they don't want to get error code, because the error code used to like affect their self-esteem, like they're not doing well. Well, error code will not blow up your laptop. So try things out. Ugoma, whose questions are you asking? Are you asking for first fish?
No, sir. I tried running my own and it's not going. It was telling me error code. You have an error in your SQL syntax. When I was trying to do the limit, I did
And
4 and
paste,
then 2.
paste the code in. Paste the code on the comment section. Let's see where the
Okay, I
error
have
is.
to write it out. I'm using my phone, but I'm using the system to work. Let me
Okay.
just type it out.
While you're doing that, that's fine. All right. Do we have any other questions? All right. I'm about to end class recording for today, guys. Just do this